Welcome everyone to today's wisdom session. Michael, I'm very excited to have this session. It's about a very interesting topic, the belief thinking. So I'm very excited myself to hear about that from Michael. But before that, let's welcome everyone from all around the world. And please show some excitement, some energy to get the room excited for Michael before we start. So let's start by our friends from the Institute of Australia. Please give them a big hand. And next, that's actually my institute, Egypt, Middle East, and North Africa. Woo!
Hola.
Three Parises.
And then Institute of Africa. Give them a big hand too. And Egypt is also in Africa, but that's another issue to check later. Institute of Brazil. Give them a big hand.
Bom dia,
Hello,
bom dia, bom
Brazil.
dia,
Yeah.
bom dia.
Many of them are attending with us here today. Institute of Europe and Scandinavia.
Yeah!
Hey
Yo,
there.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Meta, which is Henrik, is attending with us today. Then Institute of Hong Kong and China. Big hand to them. Then Institute of Indonesia. Big
Hello,
hand to them.
everyone. Yay.
Beauty. Then Institute of Latin America.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Hello, everybody.
And Institute Malaysia, Philippines, and Singapore. Give them a big hand.
Hello, selamat petang.
Bye.
Okay, and Institute of the USA.
Yes, all three of us.
So, are you ready for today's session?
Yes.
Today's
Yes.
session, as we mentioned, is about a very interesting topic. So let me get the PowerPoint started and we will be giving the mic to Michael. But before we do that, let me give you a quick intro of what we'll be doing. So we'll be having the session with Michael. If you have any questions at any time during the session, please write it in the chat box. Don't wait till the time of questions. As soon as you have a question, just write it in the chat box. Make sure to label it as a question by writing Q question before the question, so I can easily filter that and give it back to Michael during the time for questions. In the middle, we'll have a few breakout room sessions. These are very important for getting the benefit of today's session. So please make sure to stay during these sessions. And you don't need to have perfect English, except Michael. I think the rest of us, English is not our first language. And even Michael, I would say his English is not perfect. It's okay. It's not perfect. So don't worry about that. It's more important to join and participate in the sessions. That way we get to connect with the whole community, get to connect with everyone, and also get the full benefit of today's sessions. So are you ready? Turn on your cameras, and I want to see. Are you ready?
Yay.
Yeah.
So I think you're ready. Okay, and I'm getting the PowerPoint presentation ready. And remember, at the end of the session, we will have a time for the pictures. So please wait till that part and make sure you're here to take the picture. I think we'll do the pictures in the middle, not at the beginning, not at the end. We'll do it in the middle, maybe just before the breakout rooms. Okay, and here is the presentation starting 1, 2, 3, 4. Please give a big hand to Michael.
Well,
Thank
thank you,
Michael.
Mohammed. That was unique in the way we introduce everything. So we'll have to learn from that. As I keep learning and studying about thinking, I keep finding more facets of thinking that I didn't know about. On these wisdoms, we've talked about strategic thinking, decision thinking, humorous thinking, metaphorical thinking, predictive thinking. We did meta thinking. Last month, we did inferential thinking. Today, I want to talk about belief thinking, which is kind of a strange phrase, and to identify it as the universal thinking skill and to lead you through a process by which at the end, I hope you'll be able to comprehend that almost all of our thinking is belief thinking. 95% of all of our thinking is actually belief thinking. So all thinking is not the same. That's our next slide. We now know that there's a great many different kinds of thinking. Um, when I originally collected the English words for thinking and identified more than 100, now up to nearly 200 words for thinking, it indicates how that we as a human race have been trying to figure out this most unique experience that we all have, which we call thinking. When we designed the Thinking for Humans training, we separated them into 15 core skills, 5 essential thinking skills, 5 eureka or creative thinking skills, and then 5 executive thinking skills. That led us to the meta place, which is our next slide. In the meta place, you have about 12 basic kinds of thinking, and here they are listed on the screen, starting with representing information, which is the primary thinking skill. Then we start going meta to it, editing it, languaging it, believing it, valuing it, etc. This gives us a dozen or more thinking landscape. And if you listen to someone talk, as they talk, you'll be able to recognize where they are in their mind, in their meta place, by listening to, are they talking in terms of a decision, in terms of value, in terms of a memory? So when you can classify and distinguish the kind of thinking that they're doing, you'll know where they are in their mind. The next slide is a picture of the meta place, and this is in the book on the meta place, and start sorting out the fact that in the world that we live, uh, at the bottom of the hourglass, that's the primary level thinking and feeling and responding to the world. And then above that, the top of the hourglass is our mind and all the kinds of different thinking that we do. So, 2 kinds of thinking, first level and then meta level. So, first level is our next slide. And when we're talking about primary level thinking, we're really talking about perceiving, about perception, what you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you smell, what you taste. So, all of the senses gives us our primary experience of the world. And so we're thinking, but we're not aware of the thinking. We're just sentient. We're a sentient being, like any animal, like any small child. We're thinking, but we don't know that we're thinking. So becoming aware that you're thinking is the first meta state, self-awareness. And then that moves us up into the hourglass, where we have our second level thinking. The first level thinking, our next slide, indicates the limitations of thinking. So when we're at that level, we're perceiving and only perceiving. That's what Fritz Perls meant when he said, lose your mind and come to your senses. And so at this level, getting back there is very, very difficult. And getting back there in an absolute way is impossible. So here, there's no awareness that we're perceiving, no awareness that we're thinking. And so at the bottom of this screen, this is the life of animals or small infants. So to come back to this place, there's no awareness of our thinking. Our next slide, the nature of your mind as it thinks on each level. This first level, an interesting aspect of it is that it's passive. William James talked about it like a stream of consciousness. It's like your mind moves out and grabs this object, then it grabs that object, and it's passive. It's just floating along. It's receiving whatever the world has to give at that moment. And so it's innocent, it's naive. When you're in a meditation state, you recover some of this as you're becoming quiet and it's a place for the second level. When we move up, I hear a lot of echoing going on. Anyway, the second level is active. So this is where once you become aware of your thinking, you can be searching, exploring, questioning, inferring, ordering, creating. And so now your consciousness, you're mindful, you're inventive, you're innovative, you're using some of your executive functions in your brain in a very active way. So the two levels, the first level, when we're just perceiving and aware of things, is passive. The second level is very active. It's in the second level that now fascinating things happen to us as human beings. So the next slide, holding and releasing. The first level, it's just a stream of consciousness. But in the second level, now we have this ability to hold a thought in mind. And as many of you well know, when you hold a thought in mind, that is the literal definition of the word meaning. Meaning is whatever you hold in mind. And if you can hold it in mind, you could develop it, you could enhance it, you could release it. Now you begin to manage your thoughts, what you're thinking. You're managing your mind. And it is here then that your neurosemantic life begins. So this is the nature of meta thinking. The next slide. Why there's more, actually so much more in the back of your mind in that second level. So first of all, you think in terms of the movie that you play in your mind. That's your representative thinking skills. The magic then starts when you become aware of your movie. And with this, you begin to have the ability to alter your movie. First of all, you can move things around, you can edit it. We call that submodalities in NLP. You can make them pictures closer or further, brighter or dimmer. You can make the sounds louder or softer. And so here is editorial thinking, and it's a skill that no animal has, as far as we can tell. They can't manage their thoughts, they just receive them in a passive way and without awareness. But we, with our awareness of what we're doing, can now take control. So anyone who has difficulty controlling their mind, controlling their thoughts, this is the beginning place, becoming aware of your thinking and then thinking about that thinking. So what does this all mean? Next slide. Three things, what this means on the next slide. First of all, and wonderfully, it means you're not stuck. You're not stuck with your representations. Whatever you have seen and heard and felt, whatever you have recorded, you're not stuck with it. You can change it. That's why we do patterns like change personal history in NLP. Also, another thing that this means, and this is the beginning of mind management. You're in charge of the content of your mind. So it's up to you what to put into your mind, what to think. And so you become the decider of what to think and how to think. And this now allows us to move into the higher levels, the upper reaches of the mind. Our next slide. So into the upper reaches of the mind, we go, and first thing we do is linguistic thinking. We think with words. I'm going to do a whole session on linguistic thinking and the thinking with words, all of the blessings and powers that brings, and all of the warnings and curses that can occur if you get lost in the world of words. You and I live in the house of language, and we live there for the rest of our lives. And so, whatever you say about your representations, whatever you say about your thinking, however you classify it, well, you're framing, and that framing is now going to control that inner world that you live in, that private world of your mind. This also now begins belief thinking. So, our next slide. In neurosemantics, we make this distinction between a thought and a belief. And those of you who've been through APG know that the distinction is confirmation. When you confirm a thought, whatever you're representing, seeing, hearing, feeling, whenever you confirm that thought to be true and real and the way it is, you transform a mere thought into something so much more dynamic, a belief. And when you learn that this is the structure of a belief, that leads us to the metastate belief change pattern. And so thinking starts here. This is just the beginning. It's what we introduce at the APG training, but there's so much more behind this than just that confirmation. So our next slide, we can metastate beliefs into and out of existence. So if you have a limiting belief, a toxic belief, a belief that doesn't serve you well at all, you can disconfirm it. You can say, it is not true to my values. It does not support me or enhance my life. So in terms of the ecology of the belief, is it useful? Is it not? When you disconfirm that it's not useful, then you are downgrading that thought, that belief thought, into just a mere thought, and it'll do no semantic damage. When you confirm it, when you say, yeah, that's the way it is, to a limiting belief, to a limiting thought, then you create a limiting belief. And so this gives us the ability to create beliefs and to eliminate beliefs. And that's what that structure is when we do the metastating belief change pattern. Our next slide, you have to be careful. We have to be careful. If you say no to a belief itself directly, what we end up doing is creating a command negation. And actually, it makes the limiting belief stronger. The command negation is do not think about blue or do not think about elephants. And of course, the very thing that we then think about, or the blue, is the blue color or the elephants. When we do that to a limiting belief, I can't learn this stuff. It's over my head. I won't be able to make the assessment. Other people are more gifted than me. When you take a limiting belief and you try to not believe it and you try to negate it, you just give your consciousness more focus on that very thing. So that's where we got to be really careful that when you say no to the belief, you're saying no to the ecology of the belief. And so this is where we got to be very, very careful. But there's more. So let me introduce what's behind all of this in our next slide. Next slide. A belief can be any thought that accepts the first thought. So with a belief, you have a multi-layered set of thoughts. You've got your initial thought, and then above it, you've got a second thought, which is about the first one. And this second thought can be anything, more than just a confirmation. It can be a decision. It can be an understanding. It can be a memory. It can be imagination. It can be an identity. It can be any other kind of a meta level thought. Because when that meta level thought, that second thought, relates to the first one, accepting it as true, it then turns it into a belief. So this gives us the multi-level structure of a belief, and that's our next slide. The principle here is that any thought which accepts the initial thought and refers to it essentially confirms it. So the initial thought may be, I can trust and verify a person's goodwill in order to collaborate. Now, if you bring any meta-place thinking landmark to that, then see what happens. What you'll do is confirming it. So let's go back to the meta-place, our next slide. And let's just take any of the meta-level classifications that you have in the upper hourglass and bring it to that thought. And so what we're doing is then creating that structure. The next slide is a diagram of that. So here's the metastating as a confirming dynamic. And once again, we've got our initial thought at the bottom of the screen. I can trust and verify a person's goodwill in order to collaborate. So now turn that into decision. From this day forward, I will trust and verify a person's goodwill. And when you make a decision for it, you're accepting the primary level and it's turning it into a belief. It's a decision belief. If you give yourself permission, from now on, I give myself permission to trust and verify a person's goodwill. Well, now you got a permission belief. If you make this your identity, I am the kind of person who trusts and verifies a person's goodwill. Now you got an identity belief. So also with imagination, metaphor, memory, everything. So to create a belief, bring any second thought to it. And if that second thought is accepting it as it is, essentially is saying, I'm assuming it to be real, to be true, to be the way it is. And now you got a belief structure. And so everything in the meta place is a belief. Now imagine that everything in the meta place is some kind of a belief. A value is a belief about what we care about and believe and think is important. So our next slide, this enables us now to do a deep dive into the belief structure itself, a structure that NLP never did discover. They got confused with the meta levels or the primary level. They got confused thinking that submodalities, how you edit a picture, is a structure of a belief, and that came up with a submodality belief pattern, which essentially does not work. And it can alter the representation so that then you will think different things about it. And so it has that effect, but it's not going to turn it into a belief. So a deep dive into the belief structure, any idea that you bring to an initial idea will layer that second thought on top of it. So you're metastating it. You're bringing one state to another. In doing that, you're accepting it as it focuses on some aspect of that thought. And in that way, you're confirming it. So every meta level thought is a belief. And that means that it's beliefs all the way up. So you only have two kinds of thoughts. You have representation thoughts, which is perceiving what is, what you see, what you hear, what you feel, and everything else is a belief. So our next slide is beliefs all the way up. And so here's articulating each one of those. A value is what you believe is important. A permission is what you believe is allowed. A memory is what you believe you remember. An imagination is what you believe might happen, could happen, will happen. An identity is what you believe you are, who you believe you are, what roles you play. A decision is what you believe is a good choice. A metaphor is what you believe something is like. You're making a comparison, and you believe that this comparison is a legitimate comparison between the two. An intention is what you believe is a legitimate goal and the intent to achieve that goal. So this leads us to our next slide and really the conclusion that I'm driving toward, and that is a belief. Belief itself is the universal scale, and it's beliefs all the way up, and that makes us human beings believers. Our next slide, just a list of beliefs, just to give you a taste of. So in the meta model, we have cause effect beliefs. She makes me frustrated. Cause effect belief, an identity belief, value belief, cultural beliefs, family beliefs. We've got business beliefs, relationship beliefs, and you can just go through that list. So many different kinds of beliefs, and whatever you're thinking, except for what you're representing, is a belief. You have beliefs about aging, you have beliefs about money, you have beliefs about politics, beliefs about religion, beliefs about destiny, about your capacities, all kinds of concepts. Every concept is a belief. So, the next slide. You are a believer. We're all believers. We don't know reality. We know about our beliefs about reality, which is why we can do the changing of beliefs, the changing of the mind. So as we learn better, we make a lot of beliefs redundant. They just go away because they're no longer relevant to us. They're not useful. They don't help us to move through life as a mental map. All of these are just mental maps comprised of beliefs. And as a belief, we're taking a lot of things on faith. Now, this leads to some really important conclusions for how we get along with others, how we communicate, the conversations we have. And for the so what, the first thing is let's avoid being dogmatic, because whatever we're thinking is the best thinking you and I can do at that moment, but we can do better. We always can do better. And we could be wrong. I could be wrong. We're all wrong about a lot of things that we're thinking. So owning that fallibility, that liability to error, is part of being real and authentic as a human being. I can be wrong. You can be wrong. Being wrong is not a bad thing. Being wrong means I can learn, I can do better. There's the next step of development. Being wrong means I've just got some good feedback, and it's going to help me to search for how I can be right in a given subject. We have so much more to learn. So this is the value of recognizing that it's all beliefs, and we don't deal with reality, we deal with our beliefs about reality. Now, this slide here, your belief hierarchy. The other thing about a belief is that beliefs don't come as by themselves. They come with others. So whatever belief you have a belief about that belief. And that all of this is what you're holding in mind, and that's comprising your meanings. So you and I have multiple layers of beliefs, and you almost never have a single belief. So if you believe that that you can't learn these things, then if we step back and ask, what do you believe about not being able to learn these things? Then you have a higher level belief that's going to be more general, more comprehensive, and more limiting. And above that belief, there'll be another belief. And so we can trace them out. We can model out the hierarchy of your beliefs so that behind your beliefs are other ones. And this will be true for your values. This will be true for your decisions. This will be true for your understandings, your memories, that there are these conceptual hierarchies within our minds, which is why sometimes changing a belief doesn't change it, but only temporary. It pops back. And the reason is because a higher level belief, it's still operational and it brings back that first level belief. So managing this belief hierarchy, our next slide. How do we manage this belief hierarchy? Well, first of all, recognizing that the first belief is probably conscious. You're probably aware of it. And the rest of the beliefs are mostly unconscious, but we can make them conscious. We can bring them into a conscious awareness where you'll have choice and you can update them, upgrade them in the best way. So to flush it out, here's the neurosemantic tool. Let's say that this limiting belief is true. I know you don't want it to be true, but let's say it's true. What thought above and beyond this one is holding it in place? Could be another belief, could be a decision, could be a memory, could be an imagination, could be a prohibition, could be a metaphor. What other thought above and beyond it holds this in place? Now, to do that, you have to be willing to play with your thoughts because we're starting with this idea. Let's say it's true. We're not declaring it's true. We're just saying for the sake of this conversation, if it is true, what else? And so with that, you can flush out the hidden unconscious set of limiting beliefs that's holding and being held in your mind as your belief system. So that's the beginning place, fleshing out the belief system that you've built over the years, you've inherited over the years, and that you've taken on. And so you can't change what you're not aware of. And so we use this tool. Let's say it's true. What thought above and beyond that holds that in place? Our next slide. To manage your hierarchy of beliefs, be aware of this, that beliefs are really powerful. We can summarize it in this statement: as you believe, so you are. And that's speaking about how beliefs are self-organizing. As you set a belief in mind, your mind now is going out to find evidence for how it's real, whether it's real or not, whether it's useful or not. Your mind will now have a bias, a confirmation bias, in order to look for evidence so that your mind makes it so to you. So we say it's self-organizing, it's self-fulfilling, it's self-sealing, so that we develop blindness. Every belief blinds us to what else could be true. So this self-organization that is a systemic dynamic, and it makes you who you are and determines how you feel and what you do, which is why beliefs have consequences. If you believe you can't learn this stuff, then you're not going to have the motivation or energy to learn it. You won't have the intention. You won't be able to focus. You won't remember very much of it because the belief itself is self-organizing your neurology in terms of your feelings, in terms of your capacities, in terms of what you can do. Our next slide as we continue thinking about managing this belief hierarchy of our belief thoughts, uh, we recognize in neurosemantics that the ultimate leverage that we have over beliefs is the ecology question. And this is poetically stated in the biblical phrase, by their fruits you shall know them. So every belief has fruits, has results, has consequences. So a way of examining your belief is to ask that ecology question. Is this good for me? Is this useful? Will this enhance my relationships? Will I make a mess of anything systemically? My finances, my health, my friendships. So the ecology question, that'll give you leverage on your belief. And if you find that the belief does not have good fruits and the consequences of any given belief doesn't really serve you, now you can start to disconfirm it. It does not really enhance my life or empower me as a person or establish my highest spiritual pathway. The second tool here is the neurosemantic willingness question. And if you haven't used this one, this is a great one to use for yourself or with someone else. Would you like to believe X? X being the empowering belief, X being something new and unknown to you. So I can easily learn this stuff. Would you like to believe that? I can increase my income and double it. Would you like to believe that? So would you like to believe it is asking you an intention question, a decision question, and asking you to consider trying on a thought. And then by using the ecology question on it, would that enhance your life? Would that empower you as a person? Would that mess anything up? So the willingness question activates our personal choice and responsibility. So those are a couple more tools. The next slide is our next tool. This should be the reverse question, not the willingness question. So the reverse question, what is the opposite or the reverse of the limiting belief? And so what I like to do is to take the limiting belief and let's just reverse it, flip it over. I did that yesterday with a gentleman I was working with on a Zoom meeting. I asked him to take his limiting belief and let's just turn it around. He had a belief that because he was now in his 40s, he could not learn. He was back in college and taking some courses there, and he wasn't picking up on things very well. And so he had this belief, well, when you get to in your 40s, your mind is not as sharp and bright as it was when you were in your 20s. And I said, do you believe that? And he said, well, that's the truth. Well, are you willing to try out the empowering belief? Let's just reverse it. My mind is getting more agile and flexible and sharper as I get older. Would you like to believe that? So that's the reverse question. Simply turn it around and treat it as its opposite. So the bottom line, our next slide and our last slide, bottom line, you're not stuck with your beliefs. That's what neurosemantics is all about. Every belief you have, you created it in your mind by thinking. Change your thinking, change your beliefs, change your life. And so this is the power that is yours and a choice that is yours. In a little bit, we'll apply this when we go to the Zoom rooms to our personal lives and run through some of this and give you a chance to play with some beliefs and these tools. They seem like simple tools, but they're very powerful. And they're powerful because once we know that what the mind does is think, And when you think in a new and different way, you change your mind. And so with that, I'll turn it back to Mohammed.
So thank you, Michael, for sharing all these amazing knowledge and techniques. We have a few questions. So the first one is from Pascal. How do beliefs relate to attitudes?
How do beliefs relate to
Attitude.
attitudes? Well,
Yeah.
you build up a belief hierarchy and you got an attitude because everything habituates and because you're meditating, as you meditate over and over again, you create not only an emotion, you create a mood, and the mood is an aspect of attitude. And so when we do the attitude assessment pattern, when we do the changing of attitude pattern in metastates, which is in living personal genius, we're dealing with multiple levels of beliefs.
Mm, okay. So thank you, Michael, for that. Um, okay, Manal want to ask her question. So yes, Manal, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed. Michael, regarding the part that you are saying that every belief has consequences, and you gave the example that, for example, if I can say I can learn something, one of the consequences was in that, if I understood correctly, that there might not be motivation anymore if it became a belief. Would you elaborate on that part? How come if it became a belief, then I would lose this as a consequences?
Yeah, well, sure. Well, what we know is that every thought sends a signal to your body. Next month, I'm going to do neurological thinking, which is about the unconscious thinking that your body does. It's kinesthetic thinking or kinesthetic knowing in your body. So every thought sends a message to your body. Every belief sends a command to the nervous system. So if I believe something is dangerous and it's right in front of me, my body is going to get a message, get a command to go into fight, flight, or freeze. It's going to go into a state where the body releases adrenaline, blood is withdrawn from brain and stomach. So every belief has a consequence. And if you believe you can't learn something, you're sending a message to your body, maybe a belief, maybe an order, a command to your body to give up, don't care, get demotivated. So motivation is not the problem, it's a symptom. Demotivation or depression or anxiety is a symptom. It's not the problem. Problem would be the frame of mind, the thinking, the belief that is creating those symptoms. The guy I talked to yesterday, his opening statement, I said, "What do you want to achieve?" And he said, "To get rid of this anxiety." And I said, "Anxiety about what?" He said, "About studying math." I said, "Okay, so you're studying math. What do you think about math?" He said, "Well, I'm now in my 40s. My brain doesn't work as well." All right, there's your limiting belief that's causing the symptom.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
So Michael, another question we have, it's about discovering our own beliefs. So the question is, if beliefs limits our thinking, how can we explore in depth our beliefs?
So the best way is with the symptoms. Go to your symptoms and then back up to the thoughts that created them. So the illustration I just gave, oh, you have anxiety. When? Well, when I'm in math class. And what are you thinking about math class? So take the symptom, back up to the thinking that creates the symptom. And look at any place you're stuck in life. You can't sell, you can't market yourself, you can't get yourself to exercise, you can't do this, you can't look at your behaviors and ask yourself, well, what do you think about it? Now, sometimes asking yourself the question, if you're not self-aware and have a lot of personal development, it's easier if someone else asks you that question. And that's why coaching becomes a methodology for the discovery of the limiting beliefs.
Okay. So basically, it's discovering the symptoms and seeing where they are leading and what we can do about them.
Exactly.
Okay, so let me check if we have more questions.
Yep, here comes a phone call in for a limiting belief.
Okay. Uh, okay, so how does moving from representation, seeing the movie, to editing it, give us control over our thinking?
So if you're an animal, if you're an infant, all you can do is perceive, see and hear and feel and taste and touch. And that's all you can do. But once you take those images, representations into your mind, and then step back, and you have to step back. You have to step back from the representation and ask, is it visual? What am I seeing? Is it auditory? What am I hearing? How loud is it? Where is the sound? When you start asking those questions, you're thinking about your thinking. And that's meta thinking. And meta thinking gives you control because now you can go, it's too close. Let's push it apart, away a bit. It's too dim. Let me brighten it up. Now you're taking control of your mind.
Mm, mm, okay. So, question from Raquel: how to embody easily a new belief?
Well, repetition. Repetition is the mother of all learning. And an old belief has been repeated again and again and again. And that's why the neurons have been fired and now they're wired together. And to break that mental habit, like any physical habit, it's going to take you 20 or 30 days of
Mm,
repetition. I always give people the assignment at the top of the hour, every hour that you're awake during the day, state this new belief 10 times. State it again and again and again. That'll help you to, with repetition, to wire it in. Um, and if you want to do something more elegant, take that empowering belief and run it through the meta place. Why is it valuable? What decision do I need to make? How will this affect my identity? What metaphor it compares to it? Just run it through the meta place, and
mm,
you will strengthen that belief. One of the patterns we do when we teach meta plays.
mm, mm. So another question, which is related to what you just mentioned, is how to ensure the new empowering belief is sustainable. And I guess you just answered that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
you got to
so
repeat it. Um,
yeah.
there's no magic cure that just instantly you believe it. Um,
Mm,
well, it wouldn't be wonderful if we did that, because think about what beliefs you could get it stuck in your head that quick if it worked that way. The
mm,
brain needs that repetition in order to incorporate it, put it in the body, and embody it. And the more you act on the belief, the more you take action and express it and get into the state, the stronger the belief will be embodied.
okay. So one question we have here is about beliefs based on culture. So in some cultures, there are some deeply engrounded beliefs that everyone is believing and acting upon. Yet some of these beliefs can be limiting. How can we deal with beliefs that everyone else in the society believe?
I'll quote Abraham Maslow on this one. Abraham Maslow says, live in your culture, but let your culture land on your shoulders lightly so that at any given moment, when a cultural belief or ritual or process doesn't fit for you, you can set it aside. So it's your choice, and living from your own self-determination is what we say personal autonomy and empowerment is all about. You make the choice. Most of the time, you're going to go along with the group, the culture, the group, the business group, the ethnic culture, the religious culture, whatever it is, you can go along with it. But sometimes you need to stand up and live true to your own values and beliefs. We call that integrity.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So another question from Ronald from Brazil, I think. He's asking, are biases unconscious beliefs?
Sure, sure. So a bias is a belief that now biases you to a certain way of seeing things, understanding things, responding. So every bias, and the brain has natural biases within it, and and that's what makes biases particularly dangerous because they're usually useful until they're not. And and so being aware of the biases, um, yeah, they're thought patterns and belief patterns as well.
Okay. And a question from Henry. What is the difference between knowledge and belief? Is there something like knowledge beliefs?
So uh, once again, experiencing what I experienced when I started collecting all the words on thinking. There's so many words. Generally speaking, as long as you're conscious that it's a belief, you're pretty safe. It's a belief. I believe this or that. Once you once you really lock it inside, we call it knowledge. Now I know. And to some extent, when you say that, I know, you've just closed your mind. I I know it's true. Eh, And so knowing tends to be the next step after believing, and it's a sign of a closed mind. Could you be wrong? Could there be something you don't know yet? Of course, we turned it into the nominalization, knowledge, and we use knowledge to refer to the set of information and understandings that we've collected over the years about chemistry or psychology or sociology or mathematics. And so we call that knowledge. Um, but knowing the verb and what we do with that generally is the closing of the mind. So I always warn people, be careful with the knowing, because
Mhm.
whatever you know, you don't know it all, and there's more to know.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. So far, these are the questions. You might have more. We might go to the breakout room. But before we do that, let's take our group picture. So if everyone will turn on their cameras, turn on your cameras, smile. You look beautiful as you are. No need for makeup, no need for anything. Just turn on your cameras. Okay. Think everyone is ready. Are you ready for the picture? That will be in one. And please don't write in the chat box because that will interrupt the picture. If you can turn on your cameras, just do that. If you cannot, don't turn. But please don't write in the chat box so we can take screenshots. Ready? One and two and cheese. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so let's save. I'm saving that. And we'll see if we have more questions. If we don't, okay. Okay, so let's take another picture just in case. Are you ready? Okay, one, and two, and three. Okay, perfect. Perfect, everyone. So thank you for the picture. And if we don't have more questions, we can start the, actually, let's see. Okay, so let's go to the exercise. Showing that in a minute. Here again. Okay, so the first, okay. So Michael, can you please explain to us the first room experience?
So we just covered four neurosemantic tools: exposing a belief hierarchy by using the question, let's say it's true. What thought is above and beyond that one? The ecology question, does this serve you? Does it enhance your life? The willingness question, are you willing to consider this new belief? And the reverse question, let's flip it around. What's the opposite?
Perfect. With that exercise for 5, 6 in the room. Okay. 10 minutes, Michael, for that exercise. Michael, I'm asking you 10 minutes for this exercise
Yeah, 10 minutes should be good.
and 5 people in the room. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start for 10 minutes and enjoy this, the first break room exercise. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I think most of you are back, and we'd love to take a couple of insights, questions based on your experience and your break room experience. So please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question or share your experience. Yes, Daniel, please go
Hello,
ahead. Hello.
hello, Manuel from Mexico. I perceive that the last tool called the reversal question is a very useful tool in our exercise, in this process that we are reviewing now. But honestly, I want to hear more about the reversal question because I haven't hear a lot about how to manage the reversal question. Please, Michael.
Well, mostly just take the language of the limiting belief and put it in front of you. People are always out to do you wrong, and just flip it. People are always out to do me good. And if there's an objection in your mind, then use the willingness question. Are you willing to give it a chance? Are you willing to go with it for a little bit and see what happens if you use that as your belief system, that there's a positive intention in people?
Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question. Can I ask a question, Michael? Rodrigo here from Brazil. Gente, eu vou fazer uma pergunta em inglês aqui, eu já traduzo. Okay, my question is like to know, right? So the concept I always had in my mind is like okay, you might have the knowledge of something, but to really know something, it has to be in your muscles, in your
Right.
memory muscles. Then you apply to what the knowledge that you have. Therefore, we call that wisdom, I would say. Is that how you convey that? Is that the right track? How do you believe and you perceive about this statement that I just said?
Well, what the person has written there or said is true, that because it's looking at it from the framework of knowing and doing, knowing it in the mind, doing it in the body. We don't call that wisdom. That's not wisdom is a different thing than that. But that is integration, integrative knowledge, integrative thinking. And that'll be our subject next month when we talk about neurological thinking. And that's what we do with the mind to muscle pattern, trying to get the body now to be fully activated, operating on and functioning from the belief.
That's the case. Okay, great. And what so if that's not wisdom, what is wisdom then?
Well, I did a whole wisdom one, I don't know,
Michael,
6-7 months ago.
humorous here.
Yeah, we did
Humorous.
humorous thinking and we did wisdom thinking. Wisdom is the ability to hold multiple perspectives at the same time. That was Gregory Bateson's definition. Wisdom is discernment of a judgment that you're going to make, and usually in an ethically challenging context. So what is the best decision to make that we're discerning that this value overranks this other value? And to do that is to be wise.
Can I
Thank
ask
you.
a question?
Sure.
Can you tell me a little bit more how I can use exposure and belief hierarchy in a coaching session? I didn't really understood that.
So that's where we use the flushing out question. We're going to flush out. Let's say this is true.
Mm.
What thought is above and beyond this one that holds it in place? And we use that when we want to explore and go up the levels in a matrix or in a um, hierarchy.
Hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And it's time for the second room experience. Can you please explain that to us?
So we got three questions. What insights have you gained about beliefs? How will that insight enable you to take more control over your beliefs? And what will be the first limiting belief that you'd like to change into an empowering belief?
Okay, thank you, Michael. So please, everyone, take a screenshot, take a photo with your phone, so you have the questions while you're in the room. And we're recreating the rooms, and you'll be there in a few seconds. Enjoy exercise for the next 10 minutes.
This one.
Okay, so welcome back, everyone. Hope you had another amazing experience. And again, would like to take a couple of questions, feedback, insights. So please feel free to share that with the rest of the group and Michael.
Muhammad, may I go?
Yep,
Okay.
please go ahead.
Okay. For me, it's that it was a conversation that while we were talking, the session ended. So, but it's still an insight that it was insight for me, which is that we were discussing that we had a songwriter in our group, and we were discussing the topic of why would a songwriter or songwriters in general would be too afraid to write a song and having the feeling of why maybe nobody would be interested to listen to it. So, and what could be behind that? I'm not answering that question, but I took that and I reflected about myself. And I started to think about what things that I would love to do, but I'm not able to put myself out in the world and share it out of thinking maybe nobody would be interested. And so I wanted to look what's behind that. And when I looked what behind it, I found it because it's, again, I have this very big expectations is it's either something that extremely useful, extremely transforming toward the persons. So, and that was my expectation. And again, this is where it's stopping me because no, that's not a realistic expectation, or that's not something to work it out. It's about if I'm giving a training or I'm doing something, it's what I would like to, it's just to have this to have an impact. It would create the insight of the training itself or the insight of the story itself. All I would wish for is for the meaning that I want to convey is just being conveyed, and that's what would be in my control. So that was my insight.
Thank you. Any other insights, questions?
So it takes a lot of expectation or work to create disappointment.
Exactly.
So that's one of the reasons we say that anticipate, forecast, predict, but never, never expect. Hope, but never expect. And it'll keep you moving forward in life.
That's actually very wise, Michael. Hope but never expect. No, thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. So we have time for one more sharing or question. Anyone would like to take that spot? Okay, so in that case, I think we'll end a minute early.
I have one question. I have one question.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when I think of beliefs, I think of not necessarily true or false, but just degree of belief, like 10% or 15%. How does that fit within this? Is that just an evaluation of the belief that I believe such and such, but I really only believe it 40%?
Well, yeah, you can bring a proportion to a belief. Yeah, that's certainly true. So yeah, you can bring a certain degree to a belief, believe it to a certain degree. What we say in NLP is that it's useful or unuseful.
Right.
So whatever the belief is, give me a belief that you would only believe at 10%. What would be an example of that?
Of 10%? I could jump off a cliff with a parachute and survive.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm just thinking that
so-
some things we're not completely confident. But this is a belief that we, we're not confident, or I believe I can write a novel. So
Okay.
it's not 100%, but maybe it's 80%. So I'm just
Okay.
I'm thinking of these belief hierarchies in that people have constructed to analyze beliefs.
Yeah. I would separate belief from confidence.
Okay.
Because confidence is confidence in what you're doing and your skill about pulling it off, whereas the belief is, I could write a novel.
Yeah.
My confident, so you could 100% believe it, but confidence in being able to do it because I don't have the skills.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And people don't develop confidence until they have the belief, which the belief has to come first. I believe I can learn mathematics. I don't have the confidence right now, but I believe I could. And so the belief gets me into life. It gets me moving forward to do something, to take the first steps to it.
Okay, that makes sense.
We ended our little section on selling coaching. And the person said, I have a limiting belief I can't sell. Well, let's flip that over. I believe I can sell. And where's your confidence now? Well, probably 1%. So what skills do you need to start working on so that this belief can become more and more true in your life?
Coupled with optimism.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Michael, is there a little possible for to do a quick distinction? For example, I have a belief that I can dunk a basketball. I know I can't, but I have a belief. So can you make that distinction between like what's real, what's not real, what's a belief that's false in that sense a little bit?
Okay, so now we're bringing up another distinction that's between realistic and unrealistic beliefs. So if you were 7'1", it'd be realistic to believe you could dunk a basketball. If you're 4'5", it's not very realistic that you're going to dunk a basketball. So how realistic is the belief? And so now we go to all the constraints against us, which would be skill, experience, age, just context, money, just how realistic is it that you can do this versus a belief that's unrealistic.
Thank you, Michael. And since we're coming to the end of our time today, any final words you'd like to let us leave with us with today?
Well, all of us are believers. We have lots and lots, maybe hundreds of beliefs, and most of them probably serve us pretty well. Some don't. And the ability to recognize a limiting belief, seeing how it shows up in symptoms, behavioral symptoms, emotional symptoms, conversational symptoms when we get stuck, being able to recognize it is only the beginning of the art of learning how to manage your own brain and take control of your thinking so that it serves you rather than you serving it. And so this next week, be on the lookout for beliefs and be a belief changer.
As always, thank you, Michael and Geraldine, so much for your time, generosity, and what you're sharing with us. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for joining. And I'd like also to thank those doing the interpretation and also the leaders from around the world. We have Joyce with us here. We have Eva. We have Anthony. We have Linier. We have Ines. Who else? I think that's it. And me. So I'd love to thank
Judy.
myself. Judy, of course. So thank you everyone for
Geraldine.
joining us today. And Geraldine, of course, Michael, Geraldine, thank you so much. And looking forward to seeing you everyone next month. Thank you again. The recording will be available today on the website. Thank you and see you soon.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Geraldine. Thank you.